I still remember the first time my daughter-in-law laughed at my phone. It wasn't a loud laugh, no. It was one of those quiet, sharp little chuckles people make when they think you're too old, too slow, too outdated to notice. She looked at my phone like it was some kind of fossil dug out of the ground. The way her eyebrows lifted, the way she whispered to my son, the way she called it, that museum piece. I pretended I didn't hear, but I did. I always do. I'm 68 years old. My ears may not be what they used to be, but when it comes to tone, when it comes to how someone feels about you, I hear everything. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have imagined, was that the same old phone she mocked, the same phone she joked about behind my back, the same phone she rolled her eyes at every time it buzzed too slowly, that very phone recorded something. Something she never meant for me to hear. Something she hoped would stay hidden. And it wasn't an accident. It wasn't eavesdropping. It wasn't spying. I didn't even know it happened. Not at first. But when I did listen, when I finally heard the truth, everything changed. If someone had told me even a year ago that the quiet, polite girl my son married would be planning something like that, something so calculated, so heartbreaking, so devastating, I would have never believed them. But sometimes the people you welcome into your home, the ones you cook for, pray for, celebrate for, are the same ones who stand in the corner of the room whispering about how to remove you from the life you built. You don't see it all at once. It happens slowly, so slowly that by the time you finally understand, you've already been pushed out of your own family. But before I knew the truth, before the recording, before everything came crashing down, there were little signs. Her comments about how older people should downsize, her suggestions that maybe I would be happier somewhere quieter, her fake smiles when I entered the room, smiles that melted the second I turned away. And my son, who grew up running around my kitchen, who used to bring me dandelions from the yard like they were roses, who used to hug me just because he felt like it, that son started changing too. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but enough. Enough to make a mother's heart feel heavier every day. What they didn't know was that my old phone, with its cracked corner and slow screen, had a feature they never imagined. A feature that turned on when someone touched it. A feature I never used and barely remembered I had. A feature that caught their voices, their whispers, and their plan. A plan about me, about my home, about my life, about what they were going to do the moment I wasn't paying attention. And when I heard it, when I listened to every word, they didn't know that their world had already shifted. They didn't know a storm was coming. They didn't know that the woman they thought was weak, fragile, easy to move aside, was already preparing her answer. By the end of this story, you will understand exactly what they were planning, why they did it, and how everything they tried to hide became the very thing that destroyed the path they were building behind my back. You will hear how a simple old phone, the one they mocked, became the truth they couldn't escape. And by the end of this story, my daughter-in-law, who once laughed at my outdated little phone, will be sitting across from me with her hands shaking, her voice cracking, begging for a kind of forgiveness she never thought she'd need. As for me, well, a mother always has a choice: mercy or consequences, forgiveness or boundaries. And when the time came, I had to choose one. If you've ever been made to feel small, if you've ever been underestimated, If someone has ever smiled at you while secretly pushing you out of your own life, then you'll understand every word of what comes next. Before I begin the full story, before I take you through everything that happened, moment by moment, emotion by emotion, I want to ask you something heart to heart. I may be an older woman, but I know when a story matters. And if you're here listening, then maybe you've lived something like this too. Maybe you've been dismissed. Maybe you've been mocked. Maybe you've been pushed aside by someone who thinks your age makes you weak. So if you feel even a little bit connected to what I've said so far, please take a moment to like this story, share it, and subscribe. It tells the platform that our voices, our older voices, still matter. And it helps stories like this reach the people who need to hear them most. Now, let me take you back to the very beginning, to the day everything seemed normal, to the day I walked into my son's house with a casserole in my hands and had no idea that my old phone, tucked inside my purse, was about to record the first piece of a truth that would change everything. I didn't realize how much life can change in tiny moments. Moments you don't even notice until later, when you're sitting alone thinking back on everything you missed. That day, when I walked into their house with a warm casserole sitting in a dish towel, I thought everything was still normal. I thought the coldness I had been feeling recently was just stress from their jobs, or maybe marriage adjusting itself into place. I didn't want to assume anything bad. Mothers don't assume. Mothers hope. I remember knocking softly and pushing the door open, calling out their names like I always did. The house looked clean, quiet, too quiet if I'm being honest. No TV, no footsteps, not even the sound of a cupboard closing. My son's car was outside, so I knew someone had to be home. I set the casserole on the counter, brushed my hands off, and reached into my purse to get the little container of herbs I always kept for flavor. When I pulled my purse back, I didn't realize my phone had slipped out just enough to tap against the inside pocket. But that little tap, that tiny movement, that was all it needed to start recording. I didn't know it, of course. I was too busy straightening the foil on the casserole, telling myself it didn't matter if nobody was there to greet me. They were probably busy, probably tired, probably something I could understand if I just gave them grace. That's what I kept repeating to myself. Give them grace, give them patience, give them the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes the benefit of the doubt is the same thing as closing your eyes when someone is waving a warning sign right in front of you. I had just set the plate down when I heard footsteps upstairs. Light ones, quick ones, a whisper, maybe two, my son's voice low and uneasy. I remember freezing for a moment, wondering if I should go up, if I should call out again. But I stayed quiet. That's something I've done too much of in my life. Staying quiet to keep the peace. Quiet mothers raise loud regrets. My own mother used to say, and standing there that day, I understood her words more than I ever had. I decided not to disturb them. I placed the herbs on the counter, adjusted the casserole dish, and quietly let myself out the back door so they wouldn't feel obligated to come down. That's the kind of mother I am, or at least the kind I thought I had to be. It wasn't until later that night, when I reached for my phone, that I saw the screen still on, a tiny red dot blinking in the corner. It startled me. I thought something was wrong with the phone again. It wasn't until I tapped the screen and saw the timer that I realized it had been recording since the moment it touched my purse pocket. At first, I almost deleted it. Honest mistake, I thought. Pocket touches happen, but something, maybe instinct, maybe fear, maybe the ache I'd been ignoring in my chest, told me to listen. So I pressed play. I heard myself first, my footsteps in their kitchen, the sound of the cabinet squeaking, my small sigh, the same one I always make when I ask myself, do they even want me here? And then silence, followed by my daughter-in-law's voice. Is she gone yet? She whispered, her tone cold and impatient. My son mumbled something I couldn't make out. It sounded tired, heavy, like he had been dragged into a conversation he didn't want to have. But then she spoke again, louder this time, with that edge she only uses when she's irritated. I'm telling you, this can't keep going. She's always coming over, always bringing things, always acting like this is her house. You need to talk to her. Her house. That part cut deeper than it should have. My son's voice came next. Uncertain. She's helping. That's just how she is. My daughter-in-law scoffed. Helping? No. She inserts herself. And the longer she keeps coming here unannounced, the harder it'll be when we finally tell her. We have to make her understand. She can't always be around. Not when. Her voice dropped lower. I leaned closer to the phone, as if that could pull more sound out of the recording. My heart was pounding. What was coming? What didn't they want me around for? Why did her tone sound so final, so planned? Not when we move forward with everything. She whispered, everything. That word hung in my chest like weight. My son didn't respond right away. The silence stretched long enough for me to hear the faint creak of the stairs as they moved toward the landing. Then she said something that made my entire body freeze. She's old. She'll understand eventually, or she'll have to. The next part was what shattered something in me, because he didn't defend me. Not once. Not even a gentle disagreement. He only said, I'll talk to her soon. Talk to me about what? Why did he sound defeated? Why did she sound victorious? And then she said it, the part that made my stomach twist. Just get her to stop coming. She doesn't need to know everything right now. She'll only get in the way. And honestly, she's starting to become a problem. A problem. Me, his mother. I paused the recording right there. My hands were trembling so much I almost dropped the phone. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had placed a stone on my chest and pressed harder and harder. I closed my eyes, leaned back on the couch, and tried to understand what I had just heard. In the span of a few minutes, everything I had hoped was wrong. Every quiet fear, every uneasy moment, every cold look suddenly made sense. They weren't just annoyed. They weren't just stressed. They weren't just busy. They were planning something. Something big. Something they didn't want me to know. Something that involved pushing me out of their lives. Slowly, carefully, gently enough that I wouldn't protest. And I had no idea what everything meant. That night, I barely slept. I watched the ceiling for hours, replaying their voices in my head, their tone, their words, their silence between sentences. Silence is its own kind of confession, sometimes even louder than words. I kept thinking about my son, my sweet boy, the one who used to beg me to tell him just one more story before bed, the one who cried when I dropped him off for his first day of school, the one whose scraped knees I cleaned, whose hand I held across the street, whose tears I wiped when he didn't make the baseball team. How could the same boy grow into a man who let someone speak about me like that, who didn't defend me, who didn't question her? But the part that hurt the most was simple. He chose silence, and silence is agreement. The next morning, I sat quietly at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, growing colder by the minute. I didn't cry, not then. Sometimes the deepest pain doesn't bring tears. It brings stillness, the kind that holds you in place, because if you move, everything inside you might fall apart. I listened to the recording again, and again, and again, not because I wanted to torture myself with their words, but because I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I needed clarity before I confronted anything. Mothers learn to observe. Mothers learn to think first. Mothers learn that acting out of emotion never ends well. I realized something important that morning. I couldn't confront them yet, not until I knew what everything was, not until I knew the whole truth, not until they believed I was completely unaware. So I made a decision, a quiet one, the kind mothers make when their hearts are bruised but not broken. I would go on as normal. I would visit like usual. I would smile, cook, talk, and pretend I didn't know a thing. Let them reveal the rest on their own. Because people who think you're not paying attention always talk too much eventually. And that was exactly what I needed them to do. I continued my visits as if nothing had happened. I poured coffee, offered snacks, complimented the little things they had done with the house, and listened quietly while they spoke. I smiled when my daughter-in-law bragged about a new piece of furniture she had bought, or when my son recounted his day at work, sounding proud and content. All the while, I held the recording in my pocket, a silent witness to their conversations, their plans, their hidden words. Every time I thought of it, I felt a strange mixture of power and sadness. Power because I knew the truth. Sadness because the truth was not kind to the people I loved most in this world. Days turned into weeks. I watched as they moved more freely through the house, shifting furniture without asking, changing the arrangements I had lived with for decades, hanging pictures, placing vases, deciding colors for curtains. Every small act reminded me that they felt the house was theirs now. And in many ways, it had become theirs legally and socially. But they didn't know about the quiet safeguards I had put in place. I had ensured before my husband passed that the house remained under my name, protected by documents tucked safely away in a lockbox. Nobody knew except me. And now, the phone had made them reveal themselves without realizing it. I continued to listen and learn. I started keeping track of patterns, of the ways they spoke about me when they thought I was gone. My daughter-in-law's voice grew sharper in private, more confident, more certain that I would never challenge her authority in the house. My son's voice grew more subdued, more hesitant, caught somewhere between loyalty to his wife and the lingering love he still carried for me, though it was buried deep beneath his fear of conflict. I could hear it in the pauses, in the little sighs, the hesitant yes and no replies that didn't quite match the words she was saying. Then came the day when I realized how far they were willing to go. I had gone out for groceries, leaving the house in the care of their presence, or so I thought. When I returned, I found a stack of envelopes on the counter, labeled in my handwriting, which I had carefully sorted years ago. They had been rifled through, some ripped, some crumpled, as if they had been searching for something specific. The rest of the house had small traces of intrusion, drawers slightly ajar, notes moved, items rearranged. My heart sank in a way I hadn't anticipated. They were testing boundaries. They were probing for weaknesses. They were searching for leverage, but I had already prepared. I had already anticipated the possibility of such reckless behavior. I hadn't reacted. I hadn't spoken. I hadn't given them the satisfaction of knowing they had touched the things that mattered to me. Quietly, I picked up the papers, reorganized them, returned the notes to their rightful places, and left the envelopes where they belonged. My silence was deliberate. My patience was deliberate, because I knew deep down the real confrontation hadn't arrived yet, and when it did, it would be decisive. Weeks later, there was a small dinner gathering. My son and his wife were hosting a few of their friends, and I had been invited as a formality, though I could feel the subtle tension in the air. I walked in with a pie I had baked, smiling as I always did, pretending that everything was ordinary, that nothing had shifted, that life was still the same as it had been for decades. The laughter around the table sounded hollow to me. The words were bright, but the tone, the pauses, the glances exchanged behind my back, they all spoke a different truth. And then it happened, the moment that would finally set things into motion. My daughter-in-law, thinking I wasn't paying attention, whispered something across the table to one of the guests. "Don't let her find out about the property. If she does, everything falls apart." I froze mid-step, pie in hand, pretending to adjust a tablecloth. My heart raced, and yet my hands were steady. I knew she had said the words. I had already heard them before, but now she had spoken them openly, unguarded, thinking no one was listening. The evidence I had, the recording, was going to speak for me, and she didn't know it. I quietly placed the pie on the table and excused myself to the kitchen. Once there, I opened my phone and played the recording again, making sure it captured everything, every word, every pause, every sneer, every secret plan they had thought I would never hear. I didn't shout. I didn't confront. I let the phone do what I had known it would do, reveal the truth. And the truth was merciless. When I returned to the table, they were laughing, oblivious. My son's smile was easy, my daughter-in-law's confidence unchecked. But I knew the time had come. Quietly, I said, "I think we need to talk about something important." Their laughter faded, and the air changed. They looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in weeks, months, maybe even years, and there was hesitation, a subtle unease creeping into their posture. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply told them to sit, and then, slowly, I played the recording. At first, they thought it was a phone call someone else had left, an old voicemail. Perhaps, until the voices became unmistakably theirs. The tone, the cadence, the words, they recognized themselves, and the color drained from my daughter-in-law's face first. My son's lips pressed tightly together, eyes flickering from me to the phone, then down to his hands. I waited, letting every word sink in, letting the weight of their own actions reach them, letting them understand the consequences of what they had said, what they had planned, how far they had stepped into my life as if I didn't matter. And slowly I saw it, the realization settling in, the unease deepening, the first signs of guilt that had been absent before. By the end of the evening, nothing had been shouted, nothing had been broken, and yet everything had changed. They could no longer pretend that I was oblivious, that I was unaware, that I had no power in my own home. That night, I went to bed feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Relief, because the truth was finally out. Sadness, because the betrayal of trust had run deeper than I had imagined. But in that sadness, I also found a quiet strength I hadn't known I still possessed. It was only the beginning. The confrontation had been subtle, deliberate, surgical, but the real reckoning, the part where they would have to face not only the consequences of their words, but the weight of their choices, was still to come. And I quietly would be waiting, ready to decide how much mercy to show and how much justice needed to be delivered. The day of reckoning came quietly, like a slow dawn breaking through a cloudy sky. I had chosen my moment carefully. It wasn't about spectacle. It wasn't about drama. It was about truth, clarity, and finally, the silence between them being shattered by the weight of their own words. It started as an ordinary morning. I went about my routine, making coffee, watering the plants, straightening things in the living room. I pretended not to notice the tension in the house. My son and his wife moved with a subtle nervousness, glances darting toward me more often than usual. There was something in the air, a subtle shift that told me they had sensed the change, but didn't yet know its full form. I waited until the table was set for breakfast. The smell of toast and eggs filled the kitchen, but it couldn't mask the unease. My daughter-in-law poured herself a cup of coffee, pretending not to notice the deliberate calm in my movements. My son stood nearby, eyes fixed on some invisible point on the wall, pretending normalcy but failing at it. And then I spoke. I think it's time we went over a few things. I said softly, about this house, about what's been happening here, about what I've known all along. They froze. The casual postures, the false smiles, the small air of superiority. They all dissolved in an instant. My son's face went pale, his hands gripping the edge of the counter. My daughter-in-law blinked rapidly, trying to hide a rising panic, but I could see it in the tightening around her eyes. I set the phone on the table, just as I had done before, and hit play. The voices, unmistakable and unaltered, filled the room. Every whispered plan, every snide comment, every careless betrayal, they were all there. My daughter-in-law's voice, sharp and condescending, mocking my presence, deriding the life I had built. My son's voice, hesitant but complicit, agreeing, planning, excusing. I watched their faces as recognition spread. At first, disbelief. This can't be real. My son stammered, his eyes wide, the color drained from his cheeks. Yes, I said softly. It's real. Every word, every plan, every little thing you thought I wouldn't hear. My daughter-in-law's hand trembled as she reached for her cup of coffee, her knuckles white around the handle. I didn't mean, she tried to speak, but the words stumbled and fell. I let the silence stretch. I didn't interrupt. I didn't accuse further. The truth had a power of its own. It demanded attention. It demanded reckoning. And they were facing it now, in its full weight. I could see it in their eyes, the shame, the fear, the sudden understanding that they had been exposed. They had treated me as invisible for so long, and yet here I was calm, collected, holding the evidence that revealed everything. I could have shouted, I could have thrown accusations like fire, but I didn't. I wanted them to feel the gravity of their actions themselves, without my interference. And then my son spoke, his voice breaking. Mom, I didn't know you knew. You knew enough, I said quietly. Enough to act as if I didn't exist. Enough to think that I could be ignored. Enough to believe that this house, my life, my years here didn't matter. My daughter-in-law covered her mouth with her hands, her eyes brimming with tears. The confidence she had worn like armor was gone. She realized, finally, that she could no longer hide behind her arrogance or her manipulation. Every plan she had made, every word she had whispered, every little act of disregard had been recorded, not just on that old phone, but in the memory of a woman who had built a life, a home, and a family with patience, care, and love. Then came the moment that shifted everything. I leaned forward slightly, my voice calm, steady, yet carrying a weight that made both of them flinch. This house, my home, has always belonged to me. You have lived here as guests. You have acted as though you were in control. But the truth is, you've been standing on the ground that I have protected, that I have nurtured, that I have earned with a lifetime of love and care. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the wall clock. My son's shoulders sagged, my daughter-in-law's eyes filled with tears, and the reality of their deception, their entitlement, their betrayal hit them like a wave. I didn't shout. I didn't threaten. I simply spoke, and the truth spoke for itself. And then came the apology. Not immediate, not easy, not perfect, but it began. My son, with his head bowed, whispered, Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't realize how far I had gone. I was wrong. My daughter-in-law, trembling, added, I didn't mean to. I see now. I see everything. Please, I'm sorry. I watched them struggle with their own guilt, watched them attempt to reconcile their arrogance with the weight of reality. And in that moment, I had a choice. I could respond with anger. I could respond with retribution. I could make them feel the full weight of their betrayal. But instead, I chose mercy. I stood, walked to them, and placed a hand on each of their shoulders. It's not too late, I said. We can move forward, but it starts with honesty, respect, and understanding. You've crossed lines. You've hurt me. But this is where we begin to fix it. Their tears fell freely now, not just for me, but for themselves, for the choices they had made, for the arrogance that had nearly destroyed what mattered most. And for the first time in months, the house felt like a home again. Not because of furniture or space or walls, but because the people in it had finally recognized the truth. That night, I went to bed feeling a calm I hadn't felt in years. The confrontation had been intense, yes, but it had been measured. I had given them the chance to see themselves, to feel the consequences, and to make amends. And they had taken the first step. I knew there would be work to do. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. But for the first time, there was hope. A fragile, trembling hope, but hope nonetheless. And for me, that was everything. The days following that morning felt surreal. The air in the house was lighter, but not without tension. There were moments when I could see the old habits trying to creep back, the subtle glances, the half-formed sentences, the nervous laughter. But every time I reminded myself and them that nothing could erase what had been revealed. The truth had been spoken. The lessons had been learned. And now there was only the path forward. I began small, as any rebuilding must start. I asked my daughter-in-law to join me in the kitchen for tea one afternoon. She hesitated, unsure, as if expecting a reprimand or a lecture. But I simply smiled, poured the tea, and offered her a seat. "I know this won't be easy," I said quietly. "We've all made mistakes, some bigger than others, but we can choose how to move forward." Her eyes brimmed with tears, and she nodded almost imperceptibly. I want to try," she whispered. "I've been so blind." And in that small, quiet kitchen, surrounded by the smells of home and the memories of decades, something began to shift. Walls that had been built with arrogance and entitlement started to crumble. Apologies were spoken. Not the easy, perfunctory kind, but the kind that carries the weight of truth. My son approached me that evening, hesitant but sincere. "Mom, I didn't understand. I thought I was doing the right thing by following her lead. I see now I was wrong. I hurt you. I let this happen." I reached out, holding his hands. "You were raised to make choices, to follow your heart. Sometimes the heart gets clouded. What matters is what you do after realizing the truth. You're here now, and that's what matters." From that day forward, things began to improve. Small gestures first. Conversations that included me, simple acts of consideration, moments of laughter without the shadow of arrogance. Slowly, the house, once a battlefield of unspoken tensions and hidden plans, began to feel like home again. Not just for me, but for all of us. There were times when I caught myself reflecting on the years I had spent quietly enduring, silently protecting my home, and my heart ached for the lost time. But I reminded myself that the strength to endure had led to this moment, and that strength, combined with patience, had allowed truth to reveal itself in its full power. We celebrated small victories together, a family dinner where everyone truly spoke and listened, a shared cup of coffee in the morning where no words were guarded, a quiet evening where laughter flowed, naturally, not forced, not tense. And slowly, forgiveness became possible. Not the quick kind that brushes hurt under the rug, but the deliberate kind that acknowledges pain, accepts apologies, and chooses to move forward. One afternoon, while sitting together in the living room, my daughter-in-law reached out and took my hand. "I don't know how to thank you," she said softly. "I've been so blind, so foolish. I don't deserve your patience." I smiled, holding her hand gently. It's not about deserving. It's about learning, about choosing to change. And now we have that chance together. And then my son spoke, his voice steady, yet tender. "Mom, I want you to know I see you now, not just as my mother, but as the woman who built this life, this family. I understand now what you've carried for us all these years, and I am sorry for not recognizing it sooner." Tears filled my eyes, not just for the past, but for the present moment, for the healing that had begun, for the family that, despite its flaws, could still come together. In the weeks that followed, the house transformed, not because walls were repainted or furniture rearranged, but because the people within it had changed. Respect replaced arrogance, understanding replaced ignorance, and love, true, unguarded love, began to flow again. I realized something important in those weeks. Forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is strength. It does not erase the past, but it allows the future to be shaped differently. And when a family chooses to forgive, to acknowledge mistakes, and to move forward with honesty, it creates a bond stronger than anything that pride or arrogance could ever destroy. One evening, as I sat in my favorite chair, watching the sunset filter through the living room windows, I felt a deep sense of peace. My home, my family, my life, though scarred by betrayal and misunderstanding, had found its balance again. I had faced the challenges of disrespect, arrogance, and secrecy, and I had emerged with grace, dignity, and a restored sense of love. And in that quiet moment, I knew that no matter what the future held, this chapter of truth and reconciliation would remain with me forever. The house, once a symbol of conflict, had become a symbol of resilience. The family, once fractured by misunderstanding, had become a family united by honesty, respect, and forgiveness. If you've ever felt invisible in your own home, if you've ever been hurt by those you love most, remember this: patience, truth, and courage can restore what was once broken. And sometimes the most powerful moments come not from anger or retaliation, but from quiet strength, clear truth, and the willingness to forgive. Before I go, I want to leave you with this thought. Life will test you. It will challenge the love and patience you carry for those you hold dear. But the way you respond, the grace you show, and the courage to face truth head-on, those are the moments that define us. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of patience, truth, or forgiveness, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel. Your support allows stories like mine to reach others, to remind them they are not alone, and to inspire the strength to face their own challenges with courage and grace. And now, from my home to yours, let this story be a reminder that even in the face of betrayal and disregard, love, truth, and forgiveness have the power to restore what matters most.